All right, today we're diving into an idea that's going to flip how you think about reality and performance. It asks this really powerful question. What happens when the big show, the one we're all putting on, just stops?
You know that feeling, right? It's that sinking feeling you get sometimes. Maybe you're watching a press conference or you're reading some corporate jargon, and it just feels hollow. Like the words are there, everyone's nodding along, but something is just off. None of it feels quite real.
Well, that feeling, that's what this source calls the performance society. And the common wisdom is that we need this performance. We're told these scripts, these official stories are what hold everything together. The idea is that if we drop the act, well, it's just chaos, right?
But here's the twist. The text we're digging into today, it argues that this is totally backward. It says that this constant performance, this endless show, is actually the most unstable thing there is. Okay, so to get why that is, we've got to tackle a word that, let's be honest, comes with a ton of baggage. And that word is the sacred. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Religion, incense, cathedrals. But hang on, that's not where we're going with this at all.
So on the one hand, you have the common idea, right? The sacred is something we invent, a story, a belief system. But the definition we're using here is completely different. It says the sacred, well, it is reality. It's the bedrock. It's like gravity. You can't negotiate with it. You don't invent gravity, you discover it, usually the hard way, when you trip and fall.
And this next quote, man, it just nails the whole idea. It's the anchor for this entire framework. The sacred is what remains when performance collapses. Think about that. It's not the show. It's what's left standing when the lights go out and everyone's gone home.
So here's the key metaphor to hold on to. Picture our society as this huge, elaborate stage play. We've got our scripts, our costumes, our fancy lighting. That's the performance. But what's underneath the stage? Bedrock. Just solid, unshakable rock. That bedrock, that's the sacred. Okay, so if we've built this nice, comfortable stage for ourselves, why would it ever fail? Why do we keep crashing into that bedrock? Well, according to this argument, it's not a question of if it fails, but when. The collapse is basically baked into the physics of the whole thing. So let's walk through the 4 big cracks that start to show up in the stage. First up, loss of coherence. This is when the official story just doesn't line up with what you're seeing with your own 2 eyes. You're told the economy's booming, but you can't afford your groceries, that kind of thing. Second, performative authority. This is when the leaders aren't actually steering the ship, they're just playing the part of a captain. They're making nice announcements over the intercom while the ship's heading for an iceberg. Third, you get detached language. Words stop describing reality and start, obscuring it. We don't have problems anymore, we have challenges or headwinds. And finally, power replaces truth. It stops being about what's factually correct and starts being about who can shout the loudest. But you might be wondering, why can't we just keep the performance going forever? I mean, if it's comfortable, why not just patch up the cracks and carry on? Why does the show have to end? And the answer, in a word, is energy. It takes a ton of energy to maintain a lie. The source uses this perfect analogy. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. Sure, you can do it, for a little while, but it's exhausting. You're fighting against its nature. And eventually, your arms just give out. The system collapses from sheer exhaustion.
And that leads to this really critical insight. A crisis doesn't create the real world, it just reveals it. Think about it like this. Imagine you're at a huge, loud party on the beach at night. The music's blasting, people are shouting, you can't hear a thing. And then, boom, the power goes out. And in that sudden, shocking silence, you hear the ocean. The power outage didn't create the ocean. The ocean was always there. It just got rid of the noise.
All right, so the party's over, the power is out. What do we find in the silence? What does this bedrock reality actually look like? The key idea here is that finding it is an act of excavation, not construction. We're not building something new, we're digging down to find what was there all along.
And this is really important. This is not about going backwards. It's not some nostalgic trip for the good old days. It's about reorientation. The analogy the source uses is just perfect. It's like setting a broken bone. It hurts like hell, but you don't do it because you miss how the bone used to look. You do it because it's an absolute structural necessity if you ever want to walk properly again.
So when this bedrock reality reemerges, it shows up in what the text calls 6 impersonal forms. And the word impersonal is key here. These aren't warm, fuzzy moral choices. They're cold, hard, structural necessities. First, there's restraint. You stop wasting things, not because you've become a better person, but because you literally can't afford to waste them anymore.
Then silence. All that performative noise just stops. There's no script left to read. Sacrifice. This is the big shift from me to we. It's not about being noble, it's about surviving. Think of people in a lifeboat. You share the water or you all die. Then orientation. This is just admitting you're lost so you can finally pull out a real map. The death of delusion. Responsibility. The link between cause and effect just snaps back into place. You screw up, you deal with the consequences directly. And finally, undivided perception. You see a tiger as a tiger, not as a symbol, not as a metaphor, just as a very real, very dangerous tiger that you need to deal with.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. What's the final takeaway here? What does all this mean for us, right now, living in a world that feels more and more like a performance every day?
So, do we get wiser after a crisis? We love to think so, don't we? It's a really flattering story we tell ourselves. We went through that tough time, and boy, did we learn our lesson. But the text we're looking at is, well, it's absolutely brutal on this point.
It calls this idea the wisdom fallacy. And this quote, wow, it just completely demolishes the ego. We don't stop driving because we realize walking is more spiritual. We stop driving because the car ran out of gas. See, the change isn't some grand moral awakening. It's mechanical. We stop doing the thing that doesn't work because it literally stopped working. The car ran out of gas. That's it. It's incredibly humbling, but in a weird way, it kind of takes the pressure off.
So here's the bottom line. If you think the performance is the only thing holding society together, then watching it start to crack is, frankly, terrifying. It feels like the apocalypse. But if you buy into the idea we've been exploring, that there's a solid bedrock of reality underneath it all, then the collapse of the performance isn't an ending. It's a return to solid ground. It's going to be messy, for sure, but it's real. And here's the kicker. Reality, unlike the performance, is actually sustainable.
So I want to leave you with a question to take with you, kind of as a diagnostic tool for your own world. Just look around this week, at your job, in the news, on social media. Where in your world is language drifting away from reality? Where are the words just not matching the things they're supposed to describe? Because according to this framework, those aren't just little annoyances. Those are the cracks in the stage. And the real question isn't how we can patch them up, but what's waiting for us on the bedrock underneath.